Hi guys, it's Mark from anypond.com, your trusted resource in the UK for ponds and water features. Today I'm super excited because the sun is still shining. We're ready for part 2. Hope you're ready. The beginner's guide to how to build a waterfall with rocks. If you haven't seen part 1, hit the link above me now and get over there and have a look at what we've done preparing. If you've seen part 1 on Friday or weekend, thanks for watching. Always, I love seeing the comments below where you've failed, where you've done something with the advice that you've seen, or you've watched a video and I've helped you improve your pond or water gardening lifestyle or experience, as you like. But without further ado, let's go and have a look at part 2. So I've picked out this stone and it's huge. So you can see that it's big boulder. What you don't want to do is you don't want to pick these boulders up. They're absolutely huge. And when you're working on your own, you probably don't want to start with big boulders like this, but I'm just going to give you the feel. And what I'm doing is I'm rolling it into place. What you want is you want a stone which is about 1/3 bigger than the actual height of the waterfall. So what I mean by that, let's say that you've got a foot drop. You actually want the water to come out here on the rock. You don't want water to come out over the top of this particular rock, because then you'd need a bigger rock either side. And that's essentially what a waterfall is you've got 2 rocks with something in between. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to stand it up and see what it looks like, just to see if I can give a character boulder one side of the waterfall. So I'm just going to tip it up. And as you can see, it looks great like that. You've got different strata in these rocks, which you've got to follow, and you've got to have that continuation. If you want to create something that looks natural, you need to think about these lines in the actual stone. So I'm thinking now, what's the best thing to do? Whether I should use this stone or whether I should use something else. And I think because I'm overcomplicating this particular stone, so I'm actually going to create more simple for a beginner. So I'm going to roll this one out of place now, and we can talk about that in an advanced waterfall build or an ego build. Now that's out the way, let's find some other stones that we can play around with. I've got a few different types of rock here, or shapes of rock, not different types. You want to always, that's a great point, you want to always use the same type of rock. You don't want to mix rocks because it just looks terrible, it looks odd. So you wouldn't use necessarily a big glacial boulder with the aqua blues on the other side, or combination. But what you could do is you can use the aqua blues as the main feature stones, and then use smaller glacial boulders or cobbles in a riverbed where they've been tumbled, if you like. So you've got the actual sort of like the key stones that haven't, like the bedrock that haven't moved, and then you've got the rolling tumble glacial boulders that have moved down with the times. I will try and explain my process. So rather than sticking a stone on top like that, which would look odd because the force of the water would have pushed it off, and you'll be amazed on what water can do, I actually think, right, where do I actually want this? And I hold it into place. Do I want it here? And then I sort of like counterbalance it. My point of, I'm using it on my elbow and my finger, and then I bring in another stone to sort of like counterbalance. And that's the sort of like height, because I want the water to come out here. And I've picked this stone because it's either concaved, or this has actually got a sort of like a a natural crease. So the water may have been at one time this high and then it's actually taken it right down. So I like that, I think. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another supporting rock this side, making sure that we've got plenty of liner and the fleece is not going to go over the top. Put a supporting rock in here. And I'm not too worried about these particular rocks. It's just I'm worried about this one and what this is doing. So I'm not really paying too much attention to these ones. It's just more of a support for this one. And it could be temporary support. I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go behind the liner and I'm going to push sand so I don't have to hold the stone into place. So I'm going to push sand at the back here. Otherwise what you would do is you'd create a wet planting pocket from behind, but I don't want plants behind that. We could put terrestrial plants up here, but I'm going to put the sand behind it so it stops it moving from place. So I'm going to get in the way. You'll probably have to look at my back for a second. Move the spillway box out of the way. Bring the fleece up. Bring the liner up. And all I'm doing is I'm backfilling with the sand and I punch it, or you can use the tamp, depending on the size of the boulders. Now you can see that I've let go because I've got that bit of sand in place. So I'm holding the stone again, watching my fingers, and I'm giving it a tap. Bring in some more sand, whether you get someone else to give you a hand and shovel some more sand behind. What I don't want to do is I don't want to fill this area in yet. I just want to support this stone. So now I'm going to, making sure that I haven't filled in where the spillway is going to go. Now I'm going to unfold this back and have a look to see if it's moved. It hasn't, but I'm just going to show you. So I'm happy with that. I'm not happy with this stone, but I'm happy with this stone. And that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sheet cut fall, whether it comes out like that. I'll move this stone out the way for a second because that's maybe putting you off. Doesn't really matter where that's going to go. It's just in there temporary, like I was saying. Now what we need to do is build up this section. Now the sand's supporting this. And I actually think that that's looking good. So what I'm looking for now is I'm looking for another stone that fills this gap up to sort of like that height. I actually like the way that that's gone in. I love that as well. That's a lovely face. So you see that? That looks lovely. You know, it's different contours, where if you look at this one, it's nice and flat, where this one's got some undulations and stuff, and you imagine water flowing through that, it would look fantastic. So I'm going to put that to one side because that may be one that we use in a second. It may even be the sheep waterfalls. We'll have a look. So like I was saying before, I'm stacking a few more stones this side of the liner, just supporting it. Let's bring in another stone there. So I'm just holding this stone into place while I move other stones around. I like this stone as well. There's no real bad stone with this. They're all lovely feature stones. So that's supporting that, and we can get a feature spill stone in there. what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you, I'm just going to whack it with the hammer. Let's spin you around onto that sand now. So this is where the rock hammer comes in. Let's spin you back. Hopefully you can see just as well. So you can see there's some fractures and stuff, and sometimes I like to take them off and sometimes I like to leave them on until later on, and then I'll decide whether I'll leave it on, because for you to glue that little section on there, it's very hard, but over time it might break off. So we'll just see how I may put it in. So what I'm doing now is I'm sort of like building a platform for that curtain style. And that might even be able to support another one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to backfill this area with sand again. So I'm going to support these, bring the liner back, and then push sand down the back of here. So that will support that better. I think I'm going to get another piece of stone to go on top of that to get that lovely sheet waterfall that I'm looking for. And also that will support that nice. Let's go and get another piece now. So I've got another piece of... So I've turned that over, and I don't like that because there's already foam on here. Now you could sandpaper that off, or you could remove that, but I'm actually going to have it up the other way. So what I'm looking at now is I actually prefer it up the other way, because if you look at that piece of stone, it's pitched like this. And what you don't want is you don't want it pitched like that, because the water will hug it and then go down and then just drop off the front. Where if you have it this way up, forget about this foam, because we can scratch that off, is it will come and then fall straight off because it's got the lip. And that's what you're looking for, is you're looking for that lip. You see that one there, it's got another lip on it. That's not big enough. There's that piece of stone that I had. Let's just have a look at this one to see if I can make it work. I've got sand all over it. Now I'm having a look at the other ones. I'm not 100% happy with the way it is, so I'm just having a look now. And that looks better already. Hope you agree. But you imagine water coming over here and over there, you know, bringing that. This is one of the reasons why I don't put the spillway box straight in. Because what I can actually do is elevate this just slightly with a piece of stone underneath. So you can see it's sort of like a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, trying to get the stones to match. And you don't have to worry about it too much, because once you get stuff at the back here, it will hold it all into place, and we can put foam in there, we can do all sorts. Having the stone on the top is also gonna hold it in place. Need to keep it simple. I always like to overcomplicate things. Now I like that. That's just gone in there lovely. Can I bring that forward or bring it back slightly? I can always dig out this at the back, so I'm actually thinking of a number of different ways now. I like the undulations. I can always put a stone here. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll fix this into place now with a bit of waterfall foam, because I like the way it's nestling in there. Let's have a look with the level. This is where a smaller level can come into play. Having a 6-inch level is another good tool to have in your waterfall building box. You see, if I hadn't have put that on there, I wouldn't have known that it's flowing this way. And that's why I checked it. So water would be coming this way, and then it would actually be falling down there. You see the bubble? I don't know if you can see the bubble is. So we want to make sure that that's absolutely spot on, because we don't want water falling back there. We want water falling out of here. That's good. I like that. As long as it's pitching that way, as long as it's not pitching backwards, you're fine. Pitching this way, you're fine. Let's get that foamed into place. So now what we do with the waterfall foam is we shake the can. If it hasn't been used for a while, shake it for at least 30 seconds, but I was using it yesterday, so I know that it's perfectly mixed. This actual can has been out in the elements for a while. It rained yesterday, and as you can see, the label's all getting mashed up. This is actually the Pro foam. So let's talk about the foam for a second. This is the Pro foam. And you've got the DIY stuff. So the DIY stuff comes in a can, and again you have to sort of like shake this up. I'm going to use the Pro foam today because I'm stopping and starting for the video. But the waterfall foam that you get with the kit is once you crack it, you've got about 30 minutes for it to be used. And then what you do is you basically set it all up, and then you fill in all the voids with the waterfall foam. And the reason why I love DIY waterfall foam rather than the professional stuff is it actually goes off better in the winter, and it's a real handy thing to have in your toolbox, because you never know when you might need a little bit of DIY foam, and it's a more of a disposable item rather than a Pro foam can and a gun, which is sort of like 3 or 4 times the price, but you have got the benefit of being able to regulate the flow of the foam. I'm actually going to put some gravel in there. So what I'm looking at now is making sure that there's a few places where it supports. That's not really thick enough. I'll get rid of that. Might you come back to that. I'm going to break some more of this up. So that's nice and thin but thick. thicker than that smaller piece. That just supports the stone a little bit better. So now I'm just going to fill in at the back. Yeah. Do you want to have a look? So as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm creating a barrier in here, or a supporting area of foam, and now I'm going to do this side to hold this stone in place. And if I was really worried about this stone from falling down, I would actually put another rock in here, but I think we will be okay. If I hit this top with a bigger stone, then we'll have water coming this way, and it will be counterbalanced at the back here. And also having a bead of foam along here is going to hold this stone from falling forwards. Let's put you back up. I know I keep moving you, but you just have to bear with me. Either that, or you'll have to come to Pond College, and then you can walk around and get hands on. So we can afford to actually take this down a little bit more because of the water feature of the spill stone at the back. We can either raise this or drop this down. But what I want to do is I want to pull this overlay back, and then we can work out where this is going to go. Feeling the way. That wants to go behind this stone. And then you pull this, the fleece, the liner, and the underlay. So you want the underlay to come up here really, ideally. And then what you do is you make a mark on the liner itself by rubbing your hand over it. And then what it does is it creates that sort of like disc, or you can clean off with a wet finger. And then what you can do is you can take your craft knife and cut out a small, sort of like 10p piece hole. And then what you do is you stretch it over. What you don't want to do is you don't want to leave any ends. I'm trying to do it with one hand. You don't want to leave any ends so it splits or carries on splitting. So you want to curve any cuts or folds. Actually a bit bigger. We'll take the spillway out. We'll take the flange off. Take one of the rubber flanges off. There's a bit of sand in there, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to knock that out. It's easier to clean it now than it is when it's in the liner. So you can see we've got a rubber gasket, another rubber gasket, and the liner goes through here. So now what we do is we put that through the hole we made, and we get that in the center again, and then what we do is we stretch the rubber over the size of the hole, and what you don't want to do is you don't want to have it too small or too big, that it starts to fold on itself. There we go. So you want to keep that nice and tight. Put your rubber thing over. And this is what creates the watertight seal. And what you do is you thread this the opposite way and it will tighten up, and then you get your channel locks or your plumber's pliers and take it a quarter turn past hand tight. So that's hand tight now. What you don't want to do is you don't want to go Jeff Capes on it or Hercules. Just a quarter of a turn. I can still take that up actually by hand. Sometimes when you get sand or bits of soil inside it, it will pretend that it's tight. Now that's better. You don't want to do it too tight. But also you can see all around it, it's very smooth. If it was pinched up like this, it would be no good. But because it's nice and smooth, that's a perfect connection. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our pipe, and we've got a 2-inch male thread fitting, and we're going to put that in there. Normally in a garden scenario I would silicone that in, but I don't want to silicone it in. Yes, it's going to drip, and yes, it's going to leak. You could use PTFE tape. I've used it all, but I'm not too worried. I'm not going to leave this running. So all I'm doing now is I'm just doing it up hand tight, all of these fittings. Normally in the kits, you would silicone this in, and then you would glue a fitting in. Like I said, if you want to know how to do any of the mini pondless waterfall kits or the small pondless waterfall kit, drop it in the section below and I'll gladly record one for you. It might take us a bit of a time. So now what I'm doing is I'm pulling the liner back and getting this pipe in that's pre-installed here. So it's in the basin. Then it comes up. Make sure that there's nothing through the pipe. Jubilee clip it on if you were going to use this in situ, or glue it in, and you've seen on the other videos me gluing pipe in, and then you're good to go. So that's good. So you'd have fleece up here, leaving it in to make sure that there's no stones or anything that's going to damage the liner. That's a lovely watertight seal. This needs silicone in, this needs gluing, or the PVC pipe would need gluing, and then you're good to go. So let's pull it all back. Do you want to come back over here and see what's going on? Thanks for watching how to build a small waterfall. In part 3, we're going to finish everything off.